The anime shows the theme of an RPG game, where the players are called adventurers. Each adventurer has a power stat of various new types of abilities. Each of them also belongs to a group, which is under the auspices of the gods and is called a familia. These adventurers would go out daily to hunt the monsters in the dungeon. The place is a nest of monsters with various difficulty levels. After successfully defeating the monster, the adventurers then collect objects from the monster to be sold or used as weapons. It is said that one time, the gods descended on the human world to seek inspiration until they decided to stay forever in the human world. But the power of the gods was simultaneously sealed so that they could live a difficult life just like other humans. There is only one thing that the gods can give to humans, and that is the power called a bounty, which is used to defeat the monsters that threaten civilization. The people who were given that power would become servants of God. Each god has an association called a familia, and each familia consists of many adventurers. Except for the familia of the goddess Hestia, she only had a maid named Bell Cranel. Once Bell was hunting monsters in a level 5 dungeon, which contained powerful monsters. While Bell's strength was still not enough to fight the monsters in that place, unfortunately, he was blocked by a very strong monster named Minotaurus until he almost died fighting it. In a desperate situation, Bell is rescued by a female adventurer named Ise Wallenstein, who is the strongest level 6 fighter of the Loki familia. Bell was in awe of Ise's strength and beauty. After that incident, Bell secretly had feelings for Ise. He wants to become stronger to be more confident in getting to know her better. Without realizing it, Bell's feelings for Ise had a very positive impact on his skill development. Suddenly he gets a rare passive skill called Liaris Freeze, which can increase his strength quickly. As his goddess, Hestia was also surprised to see Bell's drastic development, and she will continue to support his development with all her heart. After that, Hestia went to visit her female friend named Hephaestus, who had the expertise to forge weapons. Hestia asked for her help to make a special and premium weapon for Bell. Hephaestus then made a special dagger weapon, which could follow the development of the user's skill. The more Bell got stronger, the stronger the weapon would be. The next day, Bell met a monkey monster who was messing with the city. He then tried to use his weapon against him. But apparently, he managed to defeat the monster easily using the dagger. Without realizing it, his actions were seen by many people, and he received a lot of appreciation. After that, Bell wanted to try exploring dungeon level 7. A female receptionist named Aina was very surprised to hear Bell's request at that time, whereas a few days ago, Bell almost died in dungeon level 5. Bell said that his abilities had increased compared to before. At first, Aina didn't believe it, but after seeing the strength on his back, she finally believed his words. Aina finally gave Bell access to a level 7 dungeon. But before that, she asked him to look for armor that matched his level. Even though his strength and weapons have increased, but everything is useless if Bell doesn't have adequate armor. After that, they both went to the armor seller. After selecting the new armor, Aina also gave him a handguard as a special gift from Bell. The next day, Bell was ready to explore dungeon level 7. He wore a new armor that suited him. Arriving in front of the dungeon's gate, Bell met a support woman named Lily. It is known that supporters are people who offer services to help adventurers in the dungeon. Usually, the supporters are assigned to pick up the game. After agreeing, the two of them started hunting into the dungeon. But unfortunately, Lily has evil intentions toward Bell. She cheats him in the distribution of the results of the hunt so that it is not evenly distributed. Bell earned less, while most of it was taken by Lily. But Bell is a person who is too kind, so he easily trusts others. As time passes, Bell continues to hunt with Lily without realizing that his kindness has been taken advantage of by her. After finishing the hunt, Bell returned to the base and told Hestia about Lily. However, Hestia tried to warn him that Lily was not a person to be trusted because she was already known as a con artist among adventurers. Even though he already knew this information, strangely, Bell did not change his stance. He still accepted Lily as his supporter. A few days later, Bell took a break from his hunting activities. On his day off, he went to visit his regular restaurant. Arriving at the restaurant, Bell was greeted by a female waitress named Sir Flover. The two seemed quite familiar and could be said to be friends. After that, Sir lent a book to Bell to fill his vacation, and he accepted it happily. When he got home, Bell immediately read it. After he read it to the end, he suddenly got an active skill called Firebolt. Knowing this, Hestia was surprised and checked the book's contents. It is revealed that the book is called the Grimoire, a book of magic that can grant its readers power. But after Bell read it to the end, the book's contents immediately disappeared and became a blank sheet. That means that Bell has obtained a new permanent skill from Grimoire, which increases his strength more than before. The next day, Bell returned to hunting activities with Lily. This time, the two of them would try to explore a level 10 dungeon. It contained a vast expanse of dry trees, which had a gloomy and dark feel. In addition, level 10 is also filled with monsters that are much stronger than the previous floor. Bell then fought using the power of a combination of physical and fire magic, so he could defeat the monsters with one attack. But when he faced 4 monsters at once, he had a hard time. When pressed, suddenly, Lily betrayed him openly by stealing his equipment. After that, she just left, leaving Bell alone. In her escape, Lily was intercepted by several adventurers. Her belongings were taken, then she was left in the crowd of monsters. Not long after, Lily was surprised by Bell's arrival, which immediately burned down the crowd of monsters using his fire magic. It turned out that Bell had survived the monster attack in the level 10 dungeon thanks to Ice's help, but at that time, he had not realized it. Lily looked down in shame and didn't understand why Bell still wanted to save her, even though she had betrayed him. Bell just smiled and forgave Lily just like that until his kindness was able to awaken her. After that, Bell brought Lily to his base to introduce Hestia. Lily was then accepted to join the Hestia familia, which had grown from before. The next day, Bell went to Aena's place. Coincidentally, Ice was also there looking for Bell. This is the moment they both talked to each other. Ice wanted to return Bell's armor that had fallen in the dungeon yesterday. It was then that Bell realized that the person who saved him was Ice. From that moment, Bell became closer to her. After that, Ice also intends to train him in fighting. So Bell now has a new activity besides hunting in the dungeon, namely training with Ice. A few days later, the high-level adventurers wanted to go on an expedition into the dungeon. At the same time, they will also cooperate with each other in dealing with the monsters in the dungeon. Their goal is to get to level 9, which has never been touched at all. Bell and Lily also participated in the expedition. Arriving at Dungeon 9, Bell and Lily were surprised by the appearance of a minotaur monster that shouldn't be on that floor. Seeing the monster, Lily felt very frightened and suggested that they run away from there. But Bell could only be silent because he was so afraid, while Lily, who was hit by the minotaur's attack, immediately fainted. Bell had no choice but to fight it, even though he ended up badly injured by the monster's attack. It wasn't long before Ice's group arrived at Bell's location. Ice tried to offer help to Bell, but this time he refused. Bell wanted to face the minotaur alone because the monster had traumatized him. This time he was determined to win the fight with his own strength and ability. Bell again fought the minotaur and attacked it using a combination of magic and physical power. As a result, he managed to win the fight. After the battle, Bell's strength increased quite rapidly. He also got a rare item in the form of a minotaur horn. The other adventurers were also amazed to see Bell's actions. Now, he is more respected by fellow adventurers. Arriving at headquarters, Hestia revealed that Bell got a new passive skill called Argonaut. Besides that, he also got his first title as Little Rookie. Afterward, Bell tried to find a new armor with his favorite brand, the armor made by Welf Krazo. Coincidentally, he met Krazo in person at the armor shop. Krazo then tried to offer a contract with Bell so that he could join his team, and instead, he was willing to make whatever Bell needed. The two of them agreed, then Krazo made a new weapon made of minotaur horns for Bell. The next day, Bell, Lily, and Krazo explored the medium-level dungeon. In addition to containing more powerful monsters, the dungeon also contained more monsters. Arriving there, they fought non-stop against the monsters that kept coming, like endlessly. At the same time, a team from the Takemikazuchi familia was running from the monster chase. They ran towards Bell and then passed him just like that. As a result, the monsters that were originally chasing them instead turned to chase Bell's group. Surely the three of them wouldn't be able to deal with that many monsters. They ran until they were safe from the pursuit of the monsters. However, Krazo was hit by an attack and was injured badly enough to affect their journey in the dungeon. Unfortunately, again, the figure of a minotaur appeared that confronted them, forcing Bell to fight against it. Bell used the Argonaut skill and managed to defeat the minotaur. Argonaut is known as a skill that allows the user to defeat monsters in one attack, but this skill cannot be used continuously. They had been safe for a while, but Lily seemed to have run out of energy until she finally passed out. As a result, Bell had to carry the bodies of Krazo and Lily alone. Meanwhile, Hestia had heard the news that Bell and his friends were trapped in a medium dungeon. She then tried to form a special team to find the whereabouts of the three of them. Unexpectedly, many people joined Hestia, such as the family of God Takemikazuchi, God Hermes, and Ryu, a restaurant lady. They all immediately set off and entered the dungeon. Bell was still trying to walk inside the dungeon while carrying Krazo and Lily's bodies. Not long after, a giant monster called the Attack Titan appeared. Seeing this, Bell immediately got away and fled with all his might until he entered a passage called the Under Resort, or the dungeon's safe zone. The place is a vast expanse of green and overgrown with trees. At that place, Bell also met a lot of other adventurers, including Ice. It turned out that many adventurers were resting. In addition, injured adventurers can also get treatment and food. Not long after, Hestia's team arrived at the Under Resort. Hestia was crying when she learned that Bell's condition was fine. Finally, they enjoyed the beauty of Under Resort together. It turned out that there was also a small village built by adventurers called Levira. Bell and the other adventurers relaxed before they continued their adventure. The next day, an unexpected problem arose. Titan's roar sounded from above and the monster burst into the under-resort. The attacked Titan roared again and intended to slaughter all the adventurers. Finally, they worked together to defeat the monster. Unfortunately, in the middle of the fight, they were overwhelmed by the attacked Titan, which can regenerate its body. When pressed, Bell uses the Argonaut's power and manages to defeat the Titan. That incident also made Bell even more respected by everyone because he had level 2 abilities but was able to defeat Titan, who was a boss monster. After that, Bell, Krazo, and Lily celebrated leveling up in a restaurant. Soon, a boy named Luan arrives, who is an adventurer from the Apollo Familia and insults the three of them. Not only the three of them, but Luan also insulted Hestia as a goddess who had no dignity, a goddess of failure, and others. Hearing this, Bell and Krazo became emotional, causing a commotion in the restaurant. At first, Bell and Krazo were able to beat up several adventurers, but when a male adventurer named Hyacinthos joined forces, they lost. Hyacinthos is a level 3 adventurer who is also a commander of the Apollo Familia. After that, the commotion was immediately stopped by a man named Beteloga, who was a level 6 adventurer of the Loki Familia. Hyacinthos became a little scared when he saw Bete and decided to leave the restaurant. The next day, unexpectedly, Familia Hestia received a party invitation from the god Apollo. Hestia couldn't refuse the invitation because the gods and adventurers had come to attend the party. But in the middle of the party, Apollo challenged Hestia to do a war game, which is a battle between families. Turns out that was Apollo's real plan. The party was made just to challenge Hestia. Apollo says he will seize Bell to join his Familia if he wins the war game. For some reason, Apollo felt attracted to Bell. Without thinking, Hestia refused his challenge and chose to leave. In the morning, Hestia was surprised by the attack of Apollo's adventurers. They attacked Hestia's base with fire magic and managed to destroy it. At that moment, Bell and Hestia immediately fled from the pursuit of the Apollo members and headed to the guild where Aina was. It is known that the guild is a neutral place where adventurers cannot fight each other. Unfortunately, their escape was difficult because Hyacinthos joined the two of them. It wasn't long before Bell got help from the Take Mikazuchi Familia and several adventurers. They join in helping Bell against the Apollo members until Krazo and Lily arrive. Familia Apollo also received help from Familia Soma. In the middle of the fight, Lily is surprised by the presence of a man named Zanis, who is the captain of the Soma Familia. Lily had been with Bell for a long time, but she was still a member of the Soma Familia. As a result, Zanis brought Lily to the Soma Familia headquarters. Meanwhile, Bell and Hestia were still trying to escape until she was fed up with it all. There were many adventurers involved as a result of Apollo. Hestia decided to go to Apollo's headquarters to do a war game with his Familia. After the two agreed, Apollo ordered his members to stop attacking them. Before starting, they made the rules and agreements of the war game. If Apollo wins, then he asks Bell to join his Familia. But if Hestia won, then she was free to ask anything from Apollo. After that, they made a lottery about what kind of war will be carried out. Unfortunately, the draw that appeared was a raid battle. It is known where one Familia will survive in the base while the opponent will try to invade and break into the base. This type of battle was extremely unfair, as Hestia only had one adventurer, Bell, while Apollo had many. Gods Hermes and goddess Freya, who are witnesses, propose additional rules so that the fight can run fairly. The additional rule allowed Hestia to get outside help, but only one person. Before the battle begins, each Familia is given time to prepare. Hestia had already thought of a plan to win the battle. She asked Bell to train with eyes while Krazo and several other adventurers were assigned to save Lily. That night, the attack plan began. Hestia and the joint team immediately stormed the Soma Familia headquarters. Knowing this, Lily begged the god Soma to stop the fight. However, the god Soma is a person who doesn't care about anything. So far, he has only focused on making extraordinary sake. The members also joined just because they wanted to taste the sake they made. Familia Soma is known as a drunkard because his god is also the maker of alcohol. Soma decides to test Lily by asking her to drink his sake. If she could still maintain her consciousness, then he would stop the fight. After Lily drank it, it turned out that she could still maintain her consciousness. Soma was amazed, then he immediately stopped the fight according to his promise. The conflict with Soma's Familia was finally over. Lily was released, then officially joined Hestia's Familia. The bounty on her back was replaced with a bounty from Hestia. With that, the Hestia Familia officially increased by one member. The scene then shows a woman named Makoto asks permission to leave the Take Mikazuchi Familia. She wants to join the Hestia Familia to help them win the war game. Not only Makoto, but Krazo also decided to leave the Hephaestus Familia to join the Hestia Familia. Ryu is also invited to join the war game battle. It is the god Hermes who is trying to seduce her. According to him, Ryu is very suitable to be invited to join the war game because she is a strong fighter and is not tied to any familia. By agreement, Hestia's familia was allowed to get help from only one person, who was not bound by any familia. It turns out that Ryu is willing to help familia Hestia in winning the war game. Now familia Hestia is ready to join the fight. Bell, Krazo, Mikoto, Lily, and Ryu participated as extra help. Soon, the fight began. The Hestia team will act as the invaders, while the Apollo team will try to defend the base. The game time was also scheduled for a maximum of 3 days, but on the first day, Hestia's team started attacking them. The attack was started by Ryu, who was carrying 2 lightning and fire elemental magic swords. Those 2 weapons were made by Krazo. Meanwhile, Lily was disguised as Luan, while Luan was tied up and hidden somewhere. Lily has the power to disguise herself. Her job is to provide false information to Apollo's troops. Outside the base, Mikoto is trying to distract the enemy. Now the enemy's attention is on Ryu and Mikoto. When they were all caught off guard, Lily opened the headquarters gate, then Krazo and Bell immediately entered the headquarters. Arriving at the headquarters, Bell looked for the whereabouts of the enemy commander, Hyakintos. Bell was also injured after being hit by a magic attack from him. But at the last moment, he managed to strike back until he finally won the fight. Thanks to this victory, all of Apollo's treasures were handed over to Hestia. Apollo's family was also disbanded, and he was expelled from the city. Now familia Hestia has moved headquarters to Apollo's building, which is a luxurious and spacious headquarters. This war game was a big win for familia Hestia. They all could enjoy the results of their victory. Their new headquarters has the facilities that each member needs. Mikoto was very happy to enjoy the hot springs inside the base, while Krazo also got a special place to forge weapons. Besides that, Hestia's familia also suddenly became famous, so many adventurers wanted to join her familia. However, everyone immediately disbanded when they found out that Hestia had a debt of 200 million. The debt exists because she bought a special dagger from goddess Hephaestus for Bell. Knowing this, Bell was surprised because the premium weapon was purchased by Hestia by way of debt. The adventurers who were previously excited now fled because they didn't want to be burdened by the Hestia familia's debt, so they survived with only 4 familia members. A few days later, Mikoto had a visitor, a girl named Chigusa, from the Takemikazuchi familia. She came to tell them that their friend was in danger. It is reported that their female friend Haruhime is currently forced to work in the pleasure complex or the headquarters of the goddess Ishtar. Hearing this, Mikoto desperately wanted to save Haruhime, but if they did, it would lead to a new conflict with the goddess Ishtar's familia. Haruhime herself was no ordinary member. She was the key to increasing the strength of all Ishtar members. All of this is because Haruhime was a Renard race who had a supportive skill called Yujutsu as a level booster to quickly increase the level of adventurers. Goddess Ishtar really wanted that power to attack the familia of the goddess Freya. After all, she had a personal hatred for Freya because she felt rivaled by her. Ishtar has a very high pride, even though she believes she is the most beautiful goddess in the world or heaven. But in reality, the goddess Freya was much more beautiful than herself. At the Apollo party a while ago, Freya was always the center of everyone's attention. Even Freya's charm not only captivated men, but women were also fascinated by her beauty. Freya herself showed an interest in Bell. When forming a team during the war game, Freya agreed that Hestia could receive help. All this she did to help Bell. Somehow, Bell always attracted the attention of the gods and goddesses. Freya's beauty made Ishtar feel so envious that she even planned to start a war just because she lost her beauty standard. Ishtar then realized that the strength of her members was still not enough to defeat Freya. That's why she planned to exploit Haruhime to increase the strength of all her members. Ishtar plans a ritual using a forbidden object called a killing stone. She will seal Haruhime into the stone to extract the power of Yujutsu into the killing stone. That way, all her members can use Yujutsu practically and easily. Knowing this, Bell and his team will not remain silent. The person who would be sealed into the killing stone would die instantly, which was why they would try to save Haruhime. So this conflict will involve 3 families, namely Ishtar, Freya, and Hestia. The rescue plan immediately began. Bell broke through the headquarters main gate using Argonaut and Firebolt, while Mikoto would infiltrate and try to find Haruhime's location. And after her location was known, Bell immediately followed. He moved very quickly and managed to destroy the killing stone. However, the fight didn't end there. Bell had to face the female commander named Fionn. Fionn was quite difficult to deal with because his level and status were still far above Bell's. After that, Haruhime used her Yujutsu on Bell, and instantly his strength increased drastically. He was able to fight evenly and managed to blow Fionn away. At the same time, Freya and several of her members made a sudden attack. They burned Ishtar's entire base because Freya was really angry with Ishtar. The reason was Ishtar had secretly tried to attack her, and she had also bullied Bell. So Freya came with some of her strongest members who were at level 6. Actually, Freya didn't care about Haruhime at all. She wasn't afraid if Ishtar used Jujutsu to attack her either. The only reason Freya came to that place was for Bel's sake. After that, Freya immediately met Ishtar. Some of Ishtar's bodyguards did not move in front of Freya. They all couldn't move thanks to Freya's enchantment power. After that, Freya slapped Ishtar until she fell from a height. Not long after, a bright light appeared to accompany Ishtar's death because the death of a god would be accompanied by the appearance of light. The gods who died in the human world would go to heaven, and the gods who had died could no longer return to the human world. With this, the goddess Ishtar's familia was automatically disbanded. Meanwhile, Haruhime was saved. After that, she was invited to join the Hestia familia. A few days later, Hestia was suddenly kidnapped by the god Ares. He had a family in the form of a kingdom that was outside the city of Orario. He had a large number of members, but the average of them was just an ordinary person, not an adventurer with a power status. Bell and Eyes immediately rushed to save Hestia, but unexpectedly, Hestia fell into the abyss. Bell and Eyes jumped into the abyss until the three of them were carried away by the river current and arrived at a remote village. In the village, there are pieces of black dragon scales that are used as a monster repellent by local residents. Seeing this, Bell recalled his conversation with the god Hermes. He had told Bell about three big tasks, namely defeating powerful monsters that escaped from the dungeon, the king of the land of Behemoth, the king of the sea Leviathan, and the most powerful, the black dragon. Behemoth and Leviathan have been defeated by the strongest men of the previous generation, the gods Zeus and Hera. They combined their strength and managed to defeat two of the three monsters. When they tried to face the black dragon, they unfortunately lost. So that the black dragon is still alive today, and the three big tasks still can't be completed. After going through various conflicts between adventurers, Bell and his team returned to hunting in the dungeon. In the middle of the hunt, Bell met a female elf monster who was running scared. The elf was seriously injured and even crying. The look on her face showed that she needed help. Seeing this, Bell instead helped the elf and tried to protect her from being chased by other adventurers. Actually, Bell did something wrong in the hunting rules. He shouldn't be protecting the elf. Even Bell brought the elf to his headquarters. Hestia was surprised at Bell's unreasonable behavior, but she could still understand Bell's character, which was like that. Besides, the elf is no ordinary monster. She has feelings, can speak, and can understand human language. Hestia then allowed the elf named Wine to stay at their headquarters. On the other hand, the Ikelos familia focuses on capturing monsters. The commander of that familia was a man named Dix Perdix. They were the ones who were trying to capture Wine. They only thought of catching as many monsters as possible to sell. Wine is targeted because she is a rare species. Meanwhile, at Hestia's headquarters, they planned to head to the dungeon where Bell found Wine. They wanted to find out what really happened, why there were monsters that had feelings and could talk. They would look for the answer in that dungeon. In this expedition, they were assisted by two female adventurers, Ryu and Aisha, who was former Ishtar familia, but currently joined the Hermes familia. After they had enough, they immediately headed to the dungeon. Arriving at Lily's safe zone, Ryu and Aisha were asked to wait in Levira village, while Bell and Krazo would head to dungeon level 19. Upon arrival, they were surprised to meet a monster that could talk. Even the monster asked if humans and monsters could live together, but Bell and Krazo still didn't understand what he meant. After that, Bell and his team returned to headquarters to report the matter to Hestia. The new information they got was that it turned out to be a monster with more than one feeling, not just Wine. The next day, the guildmaster gave a secret mission to Familia Hestia, which was written in a letter. After being read by Hestia, the mission was to go to dungeon level 20 with the dragon girl or Wine. All of Hestia's members were very surprised when they read the special letter. It turned out that the guild already knew that they had been keeping Wine all along, besides that the mission was mandatory. When night fell, they departed. Bell, Krazo, Mikoto, Lily, and Wine left to complete the mission, while Hestia met a mysterious person who contacted her. It turned out that the letter from the guild contained a secret message that only gods could read. And that mysterious person is a woman named Fels. Hestia was asked to follow her to the secret room. Once there, Hestia was met with the god Oranos. He immediately explained everything to Hestia that there were monsters that had the same feelings as humans. The monsters were categorized as Xenos. He had cooperated with the guild for a long time to protect the Xenos, and the mission given to Hestia this time was aimed at returning Wine to her fellow Xenos. Oranos has a very noble goal, which is to create peace between monsters and humans. He also considered Hestia's familia a bridge because they had treated Wine well. Hestia also supports this peace plan. For the moment, there are only a few gods who know all this, namely the gods Hermes, the gods Ganesha, and Hestia. Meanwhile, Bell and his team finally arrived at dungeon level 20. They then met the Xenos and received a very good welcome. Just like Wine, these Xenos really do have feelings and thoughts. Bell and the Xenos gathered to eat together. This had never occurred to Bell before, because normally they were ordered to go to the dungeon to hunt monsters, but now they were friends with the monsters. After the welcoming party, Wine was taken by the Xenos while Bell and his team returned to their headquarters. The Xenos walked towards their hiding place. In the middle of the journey, they were suddenly attacked by the Ikalos Familia. The troops led by Dix even killed the Xenos without hesitation because they wanted to kidnap Wine, who was a rare species, while the other Xenos were simply killed by them. After that, Familia Ikalos returned to the secret hideout. It turns out that they have a secret base in the dungeon. Therefore, they know the whereabouts of the Xenos. Their base had been built thousands of years ago, and no one knew where it was. The incident sparked the anger of the Xenos. Many of their comrades were killed, so they became emotional and wanted revenge. Several Xenos was desperate to go to the village of Levira and attack the adventurers who were resting there. Of course, this will disrupt the peace plan between humans and monsters. Knowing this, Auranos immediately ordered the Ganesha and Bell Familia to investigate what really happened, while the other families were forbidden to enter the dungeon. All of this was done to hide Xenos' whereabouts. But the god Hermes didn't care about that rule. He ordered Ryu, Aisha, and Asfi to go to Levira. Arriving at Levira, Familia Ganesha and Bell immediately fought the Xenos. Bell was fighting while holding back his curiosity about what really happened and why the Xenos attacked humans. One of the male red dragon Xenos named Lid explained everything to Bell. He says that there were many Xenos who was killed by the Dix Perdix's group. Even Wine was also arrested and held in their secret headquarters. Hearing that, Bell understood the situation. He was determined to help the Xenos to find Wine. At Dix Perdix's secret base, Dix orders his members to open a gate to lure the Xenos inside. That way, he can simultaneously capture the remaining Xenos. But something happened beyond Dix's expectation. Bell and Fels could enter their secret room using a special key. They got the key from Ryu because she knew the existence of the secret base, but so far, she had never talked about it to anyone. Now, they too can enter Dix Perdix's secret base. The place was a project made by a man named Dauntlessly who was very genius. He was one of the designers of the city plan of Orario and the one who designed the Tower of Babel, which is the main gate to enter the dungeon. In ancient times, Dauntlessly had a very bright idea. He wanted to build a secret passage connected to the dungeon, the project he named Knossos. During this time, the adventurers have to fight various monsters to explore the dungeon. Like when going to the 9th floor, adventurers had to start from the 1st floor. On each floor, various kinds of monsters would confront them. This motivated Dauntlessly to create an alternative path that was safe for everyone. Knossos is likened to a toll road, so adventurers can pass through it without monsters. Unfortunately, the project is still not finished after being built for so long. After all, Dauntlessly was a human and died before the project was completed. Even so, Dauntlessly never gave up, even after death. He left the blood curse to the next generation, so his descendants have the same ambition to complete the Knossos project. One of the descendants of Dauntlessly was Dix Perdix, who had rebelled and rejected the construction of Knossos. But because he was bound by the curse of blood, he couldn't refuse. In fact, Dix Perdix's goal of selling monsters was to raise funds for the development of Knossos. But on the way, something unexpected happened. When Dix learns of Xenos' existence, a change occurs in him. He really enjoyed tormenting the Xenos, even he was very happy when he saw the Xenos crying, screaming, and begging for his forgiveness. The satisfaction he felt could even suppress Dauntlessly's curse. The torture of Xenos is like a drug used only to escape the curse. After that, Dix tries to show that monsters are still monsters. He wanted to change Bell's view of the Xenos and convey that humans don't need to sympathize with monsters. Even he pulled out the red crystal that was on Wine's head until she turned into a terrible and wild monster. In an instant, her human side disappeared. Wine unknowingly attacked Bell, sending him flying far away. Despite seeing all that, Bell remained unchanged. He deliberately took Wine's attack and tried to resuscitate her. Wine even had time to cry in a terrible form, but she still couldn't control herself. Shortly after, Bell and the Xenos managed to beat Dix and his men. After that, Dix used his illusion magic on Wine, which made her wilder and unknowingly headed for the city. Bell immediately focused on pursuing Wine because it would be very dangerous if she appeared in the city. After Bell left, Dix used the opportunity to escape. But he was surprised by the appearance of a black minotaur species Xenos named Asterius, which is the strongest type of Xenos. Without hesitation, Asterius killed Dix Perdix. On the other hand, Wine, who appeared in her wild form, was attacked by Loki's Familia, who was already level 6, including eyes. Bell realized that Loki's Familia's power could kill Wine with just one hit, so he decided to protect Wine in front of everyone. Seeing Bell's behavior, everyone was confused. Bell then reasoned that Wine was his prey. Indeed, there is a code of ethics among fellow adventurers, namely, they must not snatch prey from other adventurers. But all of that only applies in the dungeon, while the monsters that appear in the city are no longer hunted monsters but threats that must be eliminated. Until there was a commotion in the middle of the city. The other Xenos also appeared in the center of the city. Loki's familia confronted the Xenos, but at that moment, Weene ran away. Unfortunately, Weene was attacked by another adventurer, killing her. Seeing all that, Fels used forbidden magic to revive Weene. She is a great magician and the only human who can master the magic of immortality. By now, her flesh and skin had disappeared, leaving her only in the form of a cloaked skull. Thanks to Fel's power, Weene was resurrected. After that, the Xenos managed to hide from the pursuit of the adventurers. After that incident, Bell is now hated by everyone. Even he is labeled an enemy of humans for trying to help monsters. He was targeted by everyone, especially Loki's familia. A man named Finn, who was the commander of the Loki familia, planned to observe Bell's every move. Finn also knew that the Xenos were still hiding in the middle of the city, and soon Bell would definitely find the Xenos to help them. All of Finn's conjectures turned out to be true. Bell and his team did plan to help the Xenos return to the dungeon. This time, he was assisted by all members of Hestia and the god Hermes. So this fight will be a strategic battle between the god Hermes against Loki's familia. Knowing that Bell was now hated by many people actually made Freya feel hurt. But she can't just appear. She will still help Bell, but secretly. Bell's plan was quite simple. He would bring the Xenos back to the dungeon using Knossos. It's ironic, Knossos, which was created to protect humans from monsters, is now being used by monsters to run away from human pursuit. The next day, the plan began. Initially, their plan went smoothly. Bell and his friends were able to trick Familia Loki. But something unexpected happened. Weene was separated from the group and didn't know where to go. Knowing that, Bell headed to Weene's place. Weene was confronted by Eyes, but Bell tried to explain that Weene had feelings like humans. However, Eyes paid no heed to it at all. According to her, monsters were monsters, and humans shouldn't sympathize with monsters. Until there was a fight between Eyes and Bell. Of course, Bell had a hard time against Eyes. After all, Eyes' level was much higher than his. Suddenly, Weene stopped their fight. Weene wanted to convince Eyes that she wasn't a threat, so she cut off her sharp nails and wings. Eyes was so shocked to see all this. Her heart was touched, so she let Bell and Weene go. After that, the Xenos managed to enter Knossos and then head to the dungeon. However, an unexpected problem arose. The Knossos gate wouldn't open because it turned out to be a fake. It was all the work of the god Hermes, who had forged the map to lead the Xenos to a dead end. Hermes then explained his reason. He asked several Xenos to die in the fight against Bell. All this the god Hermes did for Bell's sake. Just like Freya, Hermes was a god who loved Bell. He doesn't accept that Bell is hated by everyone. Therefore, he wants to restore Bell's reputation that way. One of the Xenos named Groz agreed to the rule of the god Hermes. Groz volunteered to fight Bell. The plan was that Groz would allow himself to be killed in front of everyone so that Bell would once again be considered a hero. However, the plan of the god Hermes was thwarted by Freya. She sent Arterius to the location of the fight, so the fight was taken over by Asterius. Meanwhile, Groz was asked to head to the dungeon with the other Xenos. Freya's goal is almost the same as Hermes's. It's just that she wants to help in everything. She wanted the Xenos to escape and restore Bell's reputation. That way, Bell didn't suffer a single loss. When he fought Groz, Bell didn't have the heart to attack him, but everything changed when he fought Asterius. He was very serious when fighting him because the two of them had previously met and fought in the dungeon. Asterius himself also wanted a fair fight, so it was a fight of mutual respect. Everything was according to Freya's plan, even though she always beat Hermes regarding strategy. In the entire city of Orario, Loki's familia was indeed the most powerful, but in reality, it was Freya's familia that was more dangerous. Bell's fight against Asterius lasted from night to morning. In the end, Bell had to lose against Asterius. The fight ended in mutual respect. Before leaving, Asterius had time to say goodbye. After that, he left Bell and headed to the dungeon. With this incident, the conflict was over. Meanwhile, the Xenos had returned to the dungeon, and Bell had managed to restore his reputation. This is the end of the anime. The moral that can be learned from this anime is not to judge something from its physical appearance, but judge something from its various positive aspects.